chemistry and biological sciences for indigenization in India. This is a collection of 6 webinars which will focus mainly on transforming our scientific ideas into startup organizations. Basically, these are the small steps which can lead to a self-reliant India. Today, we are in the 4th lecture of this 6 lecture series. In this series, we are today very happy and very lucky to have our one distinguished speaker, Dr. Srivari Chandrasekhar, Director IICT Hyderabad. He is an accomplished chemist working in the Division of Natural Products in CSIR IICT for long years. Sir has kindly agreed to address Industrial University students on the topic Science Without Boundaries for Sustainability. We will have his detailed introduction little later, but let me first introduce the panelists and explain the rules of the webinar. We are supposed to have Dr. J.S. Yadav, our Provost and Research Director, as the panelist, but sir has some...
He is joined.
Okay.
He is joined.
Okay, sir, welcome, sir. And he is one of the panelists today. Dean School of Science, Dr. Bharti Dabe, ma'am. Dean School of Engineering, Dr. Amish Vyas, sir. Abhinand Pandya, sir. Namrata, ma'am. Namrata Bajaj, ma'am. I'm not sure whether she is there, but she's supposed to be there. Dr. Nidhi Gaur, ma'am, coordinator of the Guj Coast webinar series. And we are also happy to have Dr. Jay Prakash Reddy and Dr. Ritu Chaudhary, our School of Science colleagues, as the panelists. I will explain the rules and regulations of the webinar a little later, but let me start first with the about the opening of the webinar. For that, we will have Dr. J.S. Yadav. Here in Industrial University, we are blessed to have Professor J.S. Yadav as our Provost and Research Director. Professor Yadav has been honored with several accolades. He is of FNA, FTWAS, JC Bose Fellow, CSIR Bhatnagar Fellow. Professor Yadav was formerly the director of CSIR IICT. While working at the CSIR IICT, he has excelled in the academics, and his outstanding findings have been published in very reputed international journals. To the best of information, he is the only scientist in the entire CSIR and in all disciplines so far who could publish over 1,300 reputed research papers, 27,000 citations, and 150 plus national and international patents during his career, and still going strong. In fact, this academic zeal attracted numerous young and enthusiastic budding researchers to get themselves associated with Dr. Yadav for their PhD degrees, which has brought him an identification and recognition as the human resources person in the field of organic chemistry. Consequently, he has also been identified as the best productive chemist of India by an independent Scopus survey. Here, I want to invite Dr. Yadav for his opening remarks and also to introduce the speaker, Dr. Srivari Chandrasekhar. Yadav, sir, please.
Yadav sir is having some network issues, so we can continue. He is joining.
Okay.
He is joining.
Okay. Okay. Let him establish the network little better. Meanwhile, I would like to invite our Dean SOS, Dr. Bharti Dabe, ma'am, for a brief account on Industrial University. Ma'am, please.
Shashwat slide.
Hi, Amish.
Haji, sir.
There is a very erratic, connection here.
Okay, sir.
So you go ahead and introduce him. I don't know when it will connect. It will not connect. Okay.
Okay, sir. No problem. I will do, sir. No problem. Okay,
because
sir.
I'm not getting full signal here. Okay.
Okay. Okay. No problem, sir.
Right. But I will be on. See?
Yeah, sure.
Right.
Okay, so on behalf of Indrashil University, I welcome you all to this webinar. Next slide, please. Just to give a brief introduction of our university for the speaker as well as for the attendees who do not know about this university, our source of inspiration is Shri Indravadan Bhai A. Modi, who is the founder and chairman of Cadila Pharmaceuticals Limited. He is popularly known as the medicine man of India. Besides being a very humble, modest person, he is truly a nationalist at heart. He truly believed that medicine should be affordable and should reach to the last man of the society. And still this care continues at Cadila Pharmaceuticals Limited. So our university was established as a philanthropic initiative of its founder Chancellor, Dr. Rajiv I. Modi, in loving memory of his parents, Shri Indravadan Ambalal Modi and Srimati Sheila Ben Modi, who laid the foundation stone of Cadila Pharmaceuticals in 1951 and from whose name the name of our university is derived. If we just see to the success story of Cadila Pharmaceuticals Limited, he can be a role model for any startup previous place. He can be a role model for any startup previous આગળ previous करो.
Shashwat, second number slide.
He can be
Okay.
a role model for any startup person or any entrepreneur who wants to initiate his business. So initially when Cadila Pharmaceuticals was started, it was started in one small room in Hasot village in Bharuch district. And Shri Indravadan Bhai used to move around on a bicycle, riding about 30 to 40 kilometers per day, marketing and selling his product. His wife, Srimati Sheila Ben Modi, was the first employee of Cadila Pharmaceuticals Limited. So to honor the legacy of care and compassion, the university's governing body and Dr. Rajiv Modi are determined to holistically transform and develop this university into a hallmark of global academic excellence. Next. If we see to the success of the milestones of success of our university, previous Cadila Pharmaceuticals was established in 1951. It is still one of the largest privately held pharmaceutical company in our country. It has over 10,000 employees and it has its presence in about 90 different countries. So Cadila Pharmaceuticals Limited in 2016 initiated its education initiative as Shri Saraswati Education Foundation. But in 2018, it was Indrashil University which was established as the first life sciences university of our country. And seeing to the success of our university, Niti Aayog, Government of India, in 2019 supported us with Atal Incubation Center with its flagship program to encourage youth of our country to initiate startup and become future entrepreneurs of our country. And in 2019-20, again in the same year, Government of Gujarat supported us with Indrashil Innovative Foundation with its student startup and innovation policy exclusively funded by Government of Gujarat. So we have two platforms in our university which support startups for the youth of our state. Next slide, please. Needless to say, as the mentor of a university, and as I always say, the success of any institute depends on the leader that leads that university. As a mentor, as a provost, as a director of research, we have Dr. J.S. Yadav. Dr. Paulomi Sengupta has already given the formal introduction. He was the former director of Indian Institute of Chemical Technology, Hyderabad. The present speaker, Dr. Chandrasekhar, is now the director of that institute. Dr. Yadav sir has received several accolades to his credit, the most prestigious in science, which we name it as Shanti Swarup Bhatnagar Fellow, GSC Base Fellow, with a number of patents, publications, PhD students, and still we have 11 to 12 students working for PhD under him, several thousand citations to his credit. And he can truly be a role model for any researcher, young scientist, young faculty who wants to create a benchmark in science and research. Next slide, please. So at Indrashil University, we do not compromise on academics. We provide academic excellence in terms of an updated syllabus that we have in our university with faculty who are all PhDs from premier national institutes of our country and who have done their postdocs in 2 to 3 different foreign countries. As it is supported by Kerala Pharmaceuticals, we provide ample industrial exposure. One of our major objectives is to make the students industry ready as they step out of this university. And for this, we provide ample industrial exposure in terms of industrial internship as well as their placements to various industries. We focus on overall development of the students, be it curricular, be it co-curricular or extracurricular activities, and we have tried to achieve global education standards. Next slide, please. So under the umbrella of Indrashil University, we have School of Engineering as well as School of Science. School of Engineering offers BTech in Computer Science and Engineering, Mechanical Engineering, Chemical and Biochemical Engineering, whereas School of Science offers BSc Honours Chemistry, BSc offers Biosciences, our first university in Gujarat to offer honours degree at an undergraduate level. We offer master's program in chemistry, animal biology, microbiology, as well as doctoral programs in both the schools. Whereas in terms of international collaborations, we have entered into MOUs with 3 foreign universities, one of which is Sacred Heart University, USA, Tuskegee University, USA, as well as Newcastle University, Australia. At present, we have collaboration with School of Engineering, where the students, once they get admitted and once they offer this program, they can get dual degrees. 3 years they need to do at our university, 1 year at foreign university, and they would be awarded degrees both from Indrashil as well as these foreign universities. And this has gained wide popularity among the students of Gujarat. Next slide, please. So as we have Yadav sir as a mentor, needless to say, we have very well equipped, very well sophisticated state-of-the-art infrastructure facilities, laboratory facilities with high throughput scientific instruments, GCMS, HPLC, FTIR, IR, etc. But over and above this, we have recently procured NMR, the first university in Gujarat to have NMR, and which is available to both undergraduate as well as postgraduate students. As is very well known, a very super sophisticated equipment, you can say, which costs around 4 to 5 crores. And this NMR at present, we have this running 24/7 in our university. Next slide, please. The services are made available to rest of the researchers of our state, of our country, as well as faculties and scientific institutes. Next. So as our focus is on to make the students industry ready, we have entered into collaboration MOUs with a number of industries. To name a few: Kerala Pharmaceuticals, Karnavati Engineering, National Chemical Laboratory, Pune, Entrepreneurship Development Institute of India, Apollo Hospitals, Iron Energy, Ratnaman Industries, etc. Next slide, please. So as has been previously said, to support a startup and our students and the young researchers becoming future entrepreneurs of our country, we provide them 2 major platforms. One in the form of Atal Incubation Center, which is totally supported by Government of India, and the second is Indrashil Innovative Foundation, supported by our own state, that is Government of Gujarat. Next slide, please. So those students, etc., who want to initiate their startups, if they come up with a novel idea, we provide them world-class R&D laboratories, we provide them dedicated office and lab space, we provide about 50 lakh rupees at Kickstart support, 2 crores at seed fund support. We provide them advices, mentoring in the form of renowned mentors from industry, government department, various agencies, as well as R&D labs, and the overall support if they want to take up their startup to a sustainable business. Next slide, please. So if any more information is needed by anybody, they can reach us at our website. We have our email ID. They can reach to this and they can contact the person concerned at 6359102727. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am, for introducing our college, our university so nicely. I now invite my colleague, Dr. Nidhi Gaur, who is the coordinator of this event, to introduce the GUJCO sponsored webinar series. formally introduce the series. Thank you. Dr. Nidhi, please.
Thank you, Dr. Palomi. At the outset, I want to thank Dr. S. Chandrasekhar sir for agreeing to give webinar and give us some time from his precious schedule. Indeed, we are very fortunate to hear a webinar from a highly accomplished scientist, entrepreneur, and administrator who is director of one of the best institute of chemistry in India. And we really look forward to it and are very excited to hear his webinar. The webinar series Opportunities in Chemistry and Biological Sciences for Indigenization in India is very relevant and important in today's context, wherein our Honorary Prime Minister has appealed to everybody to create an self-reliant India. This is there is increasing need to become self-reliant in all sectors, and we as scientists should also realize our responsibility towards society and strive to convert our research ideas to applications which could generate more and more employment. Hence, learning objective of this webinar series is to create an awareness among students and young scientists about the opportunities which are present in chemical and biological sciences and its future scope. It is expected that the webinar given by the eminent scientists will also be very helpful to get guidance on how to set up collaborations with industries and other academic institutes and have an interdisciplinary approach, and also learn importance of creative work environment wherein innovative ideas are always welcome. One of the most important aim of this webinar series is students and scientists to learn how to convert their ideas to proof of concept and finally use it for commercialization and make commercial products that could be launched in the market. And they should aim to be a job giver rather than job seeker in future. In this context, this webinar series will have webinars by most eminent scientists who have also accomplished themselves as entrepreneurs, and they will guide us about the startup opportunities present in India and inspire us by serving as role model. So we are very fortunate to have Dr. S. Chandrasekhar with us, who is a role model on how an academician can also become a successful entrepreneur and a successful administrator. Thank you so much, sir, again for accepting our invitation, and we eagerly look forward to hear your webinar. And thank you so much again.
So, Nidhi, can I start now?
Yes, sir. There will be a brief introduction about your predictions to audience.
Sorry, just 2 minutes. I know you and all the students, even us here.
Good. Yeah. Do your own formalities. Don't worry. Go ahead.
Sorry. So we will start with Amish sir, who will formally introduce Dr. Chandrasekhar. But before that, I would like to take 1 minute off because we can see Dr. Abhinand Pandya sir is online. Abhinand Pandya sir is Manager Strategic Committee of Industrial University. We would request sir for briefly telling something about this webinar series. Sir, please unmute yourself.
Good morning to you all. It is our privilege and honor to have Dr. S. Chandrasekhar sir with us. You know, we are developing our science faculty in a big way with a lot of high-end equipments over here. And we must take this opportunity to get guidance and a lot of advice from S. Chandrasekhar sir, specifically to the students who are the young mind and talent who are going to take the mankind of Indian scientific evolution to the next level. And that's where I would like to thank S. Chandrasekhar and this opportunity of getting into SSIP level, where Dr. Narottam Sahu and Harit Shukla are helping us in developing entrepreneurial habits, and how our scientific community of kids, they are able to develop molecules, take it to the next level and become entrepreneurs. That's what is the sole end of this seminar. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for your kind words. We will move to Dr. Amish Vyas, who will formally introduce Dr. Shivari Chandrasekhar. Sir, please.
Thank you, Palomi. And very good morning to one and all participants and panelists. I would like to welcome Dr. Shivari Chandrasekhar, who is present Director of IICT, CSIR IICT Hyderabad, and we are lucky enough to have him with us. This is the second time I think we have Dr. Chandrasekhar with us, and it is always a pleasure to listen him, his thoughts and his ideas. So this is a very good webinar, I can say, Science Without Boundaries for Sustainability. Topic itself is very interesting, and the person is more interesting who will be delivering this topic. Dr. Sivari Chandrasekhar, born in 1964, completed all his primary and higher education in Hyderabad and joined CSIR IICT for a PhD program. So he joined IICT in 1986 as a junior research fellow. He joined CSIR IICT as scientist C in February 1994. He was a chief scientist in 2010, and since then he has been leading one of the largest groups at the IICT for natural products chemistry, and he grew up to the level of director in June 2015. He has made significant contributions in diverse areas of organic chemistry with a special emphasis on chiral chemistry, total synthesis of biologically active natural products and pharmaceutical products. The distinguished scientist himself he has developed technologies for synthesis of latest anti-tuberculosis drug, bedaquiline, anti-tumor and abortive drug, misoprostol, and drug for treatment of schizophrenia, asenapine, among others. He has made more than 250 publications with more than 5,000 citations to his credit. And it is very interesting to know that even after chairing the position of director IICT, he has more than 2,800 citations. I'm talking about after 2015. If you see overall, he has more than 8,000 citations out of his publications, and I-10 index of his publication itself is 191, which is a great achievement for anyone and inspirational story for everyone, especially for the budding scientists. He is a fellow of Indian Academy of Sciences in Chemistry section in 2011. He is a winner of Infosys Prize in 2014. He has expertise, as I said, in chemistry, pharmaceutical industry, problem solving in HPLC. So a list is very long. He is a very eminent personality. But at the same time, I do not want to be in between his lecture and the audience. So I would like to welcome again Dr. S. Chandrasekhar sir, and I wish a very good success, grand success to this webinar. Thank you very much, sir, and welcome again, sir.
Thank you, Ami sir. We will start right away with the main program of this event. Before that, I would clarify the rules of this webinar to the students. Students, you will know that there is arrangement of e-certificate after attending this event. So after the event is over, you will be at the end of the lecture, you will be sent one feedback link in the chat section. You have to fill out the feedback form, and then only you will receive the certificate. So in the feedback form, there are places like write your name, write your email ID. Make sure you write them very rightly with all spellings right and all, so that you get the e-certificate properly at your mailbox. And also you are encouraged to ask questions. So please write down your questions in the Q&A section. And when you write the section, please write the question. Please write, are you a BSc student, BSc microbiology, or a BSc chemistry, MSc what? Like write your level of study, or if you're a faculty, please write that out. Then we will answer the question from that level. Okay. So, sir, the dais is all yours. Please, you can start with your presentation.
Thanks, Palomi, and thanks all. Respected Dr. Yadav, sir, I think sir on the call. Greetings to you, sir, and it's an honor to be giving a seminar when you are in the audience. And it's always a privilege to tell whatever little I've learned from you. I happen to be your student, and it's always an honor to be speaking in front of you. And I also sincerely thank Indrashil University for giving this opportunity. And I hope end of my talk, some students at least would get some inspiration on what is happening around in science and technology. As the title and also the introduction given by all of you, including Nidhi and Abhinand and other Amish, the whole objective of this webinar series is to see how India could be Atmanirbhar, and also how we motivate some young students and young colleagues to become entrepreneurs. Just to correct, I'm only helping industry. I never became an entrepreneur. Hopefully I'll become in the next 3-4 years. So someone mentioned that I'm also an entrepreneur. I don't have a company. So coming back to today's seminar, knowing that now the audience are also from BSc and also in masters and also engineering, I will try to rush the slides where chemistry content is there, so that those who are not very keen to look at the chemistry slides, they will be happy. And those who would like to know about chemistry, I will certainly share my slides to Paulomi or Nidhi, and I'm sure you could give my slides to whoever the colleagues are interested. So with this quick round of what is I'm going to talk about today, I would start sharing my screen. And once the slides start running, I will keep speaking. The whole objective of today's talk is why science has no boundaries. And why, first of all, we should not have boundaries is one we will like to ponder around. And the second question is how India could become Atmanirbhar in the chemical sector, because that is where whatever little expertise I have. So I will try to tell on how we could be self-sufficient in the chemical sector. The same rules apply to other sciences also. So coming to today's talk, give me a second. I hope, are you able to see my screen now?
Yes, sir, it is visible, sir.
Thank you. Okay, one of you should respond so that I know I'm talking to someone. Otherwise, I will be talking to my computer.
No, sir. We are always there, sir.
So once any problem, just text me or just send a message. I'll be able to see that. Yeah. So science without boundaries for sustainability would be my talk today. So when I told science for sustainability, all my talk, more or less, at least 80% of my presentation is inspired by these two books. One book is John Gribbin's Science, a History. And another one is, of course, most popular recent speakers, writers, Yuval Noah Harari, who has written many books on sapiens. I think if you go back and read his books on sapiens and Homo sapiens and all that, one of the finest books he wrote is 21 Lessons for the 21st Century. Incidentally, I'm also writing a book inspired by this book because 2020, unfortunately, did not treat all of us well. So we are writing a book, 20 Lessons of 2020. So we are writing a book, and hopefully that should come up in the next 3-4 months. So as I told, these two books, certainly I recommend the young colleagues on the call, I think just buy and keep with you, hard copies, personal copies with you. And every page, honestly, is an inspiration. Honestly, I'm a very poor reader. I don't like to read history and all that. I'm just a trained chemist, but unfortunately, these two books inspired me so much. I started reading general books as well. So if you look at the quotation of John Gribbin, science is a personal activity. One should know that science, you always do as a passion. You don't do science just because someone asks you to do science. If someone tells you do science, I think you should not do, because science has to be done internally. And of course, you never do science for personal glory. We had a wonderful debate yesterday in one of these Vibha activities, Vigyan Bharati activities. While science does not give you a lot of money, but why people take science, why people go to engineering, because after BTech they get a 3.5 lakh rupee package and life begins there. For a BSc chemist, I think poor fellow, he will not get a 3.5 lakh package or 4 lakh package. I think COVID has treated us badly. I think the package has come down drastically now. From all IT companies, they say that, you're working from home, so they will not give you transport, they will not give you proper lunch, so everything is at home now. I think scientists should not look for all those things. Scientists and an army officer or a military officer are equal. I think they do, anything they do is for a cause, actually. There's nothing like personal in science, and there's nothing personal in defense. I think these two have to be correlated as one set of activity. if you decide to work for Indian Defense, for example, I think you don't say that I'll get more money or I'll get more pension. I think you are prepared to die for the country. I think that's when you join Indian Defense. Similarly, you decide that whatever little personal activity I do, it is going to change the way the world is living today. I think unless those passions are there, one should not get into science. So if you look at what are the traits of a scientist, scientist has to be it's intellectual activity. Okay. And who is a scientist? A scientist is a person who works in and has expert knowledge of a particular field of science. Generally, scientists themselves call, I'm an organic chemist, for example, or I'm a molecular biologist. Again, within organic chemist, I say I am a asymmetric synthesis chemist. I think we keep on dividing. That's where I said unity of science now. I think we don't want to give those bifurcations. Scientist is one. Whether you do biology or you do chemistry or you do mathematics or you do physics, I think end of the day, science is one. And while we divide science into many classes, which I will share again with you, I think all sciences, the whole single objective is it should serve the mankind. It should make the person happy. The person living on the planet should be happy. And also planet also should be happy. I think a scientist should strive towards making the planet the happiest planet. If the planet is happy, it will treat us well. And I can only tell you that COVID, while has troubled the entire planet, has told the world that only scientists can handle these kind of problems. We all called Corona a invisible enemy, and you cannot take F-16 or a gun and kill the virus, for example. So end of the day, only scientists can see this virus under a microscope, and then scientists only can kill it using a drug or make a vaccine so that this virus will not disturb you. I'm proud that Cadila also has done commendable job in handling this COVID. Today, you have a vaccine, Sepsivac. I'm sure many more vaccines will come and many drugs will come. And I'm sure in the next 1-2 months, we'll be able to defeat this pandemic. That's why I always tell that we should defeat this pandemic in such a way that no pandemic comes in the near future. Coming back to rules of a scientist, like you put rules, follow me for today's webinar. I'm also putting some rules for a scientist. Scientists should see failure as a beginning. Many a times what happens is when you fail, you decide not to do anything. But I think science should be looked at as failure as a beginning, not as an end. And never stop learning. As you rightly said, I think we are all mentored by Dr. Yadav, who never stopped learning. Even at the age of what today he's has achieved 1,300 publications, 30,000 citations. He's among top 0.2% or 0.1% of the scientists in the world. Despite that, he's an ever learner. And assume nothing, question everything. I think scientist is something, you don't take anything for granted. You always keep questioning. Then whatever little we know, I think we should not keep with ourselves. Science is something you need to share. As you share, I think the science will grow. Like there is a saying, if you have sorrow, you share. I think sorrowness will come down. Anytime you are very sorrow, don't sit in a room and keep crying. Think then you get into depression and then you get suicidal tendencies. You need to go to a psychiatrist. But if whatever little sorrowness you have, you go to friends and teachers and mentors and share your sorrowness, they will counsel you and you will become all right. That is how the sorrowness will come down. Similarly, if you have a little happiness, also go and share. I think if you share happiness, it increases. The moment you start sharing happiness, it increases. Sorrowness you share, it decreases. Similarly, science you share, the value of science increases. I think it's always important that we keep whatever little we know, we keep teaching others. And of course, practice humility. Always, whatever big you are, whatever great you are, I think we need to learn humility. Then respect criticism. Someone says your science is bad. I think you please ask him why my science is bad or why I am bad. I think we always change ourselves rather than overreacting or shouting at him back and all that. I think we always should respect the criticism. And in science, I think ethics play an important role. If someone contributes to us, it's always important that we give credit. Sometimes we always hear that there is plagiarism. Someone does some work, we copy it without giving proper references and all that. I think that we should avoid. Ethics play an important role in the progression of science. And science does not happen without initiative. Someone has always to take initiative. For example, when Dr. Yadav moved from Hyderabad, one of the finest institutes in the country, to Indrashil. Today, Indrashil competes IICT. I think that's where he has taken initiatives. He built up. Very impressed to see that you got an NMR machine in a new university, which even many best institutes in the country will not have. Then ask tough questions at the beginning of any program so that you know that you will fail. So you prepare for it. Always ask tough questions. Don't ask easy questions. And okay, now everything is natural, we go forward. I think we always ask tough questions and make decisions. And love always what you do. If you can't love what you are doing, I think better leave it. Otherwise, what happens is we will fail in our life. So that is what science and scientists need to understand. So as I told, unfortunately, while science is one branch of a field of activity, we have divided into physical sciences, biological sciences, earth sciences. Again, we have astronomical sciences, physics, chemistry, botany, zoology, anthropology, entomology. I don't know what all. We have divided our activities into many, many subsets. But end of the day, all science is one. I think that is what we should know. Every science contributes. And also whatever little science has taught us, I think we should go back and see the history of science. Today, what I will try to do is for sustainability, how we need to learn from the history of science. So early part of my talk, I'll try to cover what is that we should learn from the history, how science has progressed and how it should progress, that we will handle 2050 or year 3000. I'm sure some of the young colleagues, young students on the call who are BSc first year, they must be hardly 17, 18 years old. So they are going to be on this planet for 100 more years, because maybe who knows, the average age of all of us will go up to 120 years or 130 years in the next 60, 70 years with the best vaccines, and we conquer all the diseases. And maybe we don't die till 120, 130. Who knows, one of you or some of you may see the year 3000 also. So what is that year 3000 will look like to all of us? I think we will know how 1900 was. We know how 2000 is because most of us are born in 2000 years. So we know how 2000 was and how 3000 will be. I think we need to see using artificial intelligence how 3000 look like. Are we prepared? Whether the planet, are we making planet ready to handle the year 3000 or the year 4000? Or people say that Kali Yuga ant ho jayega. Or people predicted that Corona will ruin the world. But I think we conquered the Corona. Today I was talking to one of you. I think the number of cases, Ahmedabad has come down. Hyderabad has only 100 cases. Who knows, in 2-3 months we will conquer this and normal life will come. Many people said that new normalcy. I think we will go back to old normalcy. And that is the biggest achievement scientists have done. So if you look at scientists, they are not poster boys. You all know that when you look at poster, for us Virat Kohli is a hero. But suddenly what happened? Virat Kohli's team also made 35 all out, and again we don't like Virat Kohli now. Now we say, no, Virat Kohli is not good, other fellow is better. Or we adored Sachin Tendulkar. I think all these players and all these film stars, I think we adore them only for a certain time. I mean, when I was young, Sunil Gavaskar or Gundappa Vishwanath or Farooq Engineer. So you know how old I will be now. So I adore those players. And suddenly I looked at Joel Gardner or Ian Botham or Richard Hadley. But if I tell all my young colleagues on the call today, they don't know any of these names. They will say that Sachin also, they are almost forgotten now. I think they are at the next generation. So these sports stars and film stars and all would come and go away. But these scientists are eternal. While they are on the planet or not on the planet, I think we are proud that we are on science community and scientists are eternal. Whatever little science we do, it will be in the books forever. So I think we should feel proud that the practice of science is great. We should not feel guilty that, oh, I did not become a film star, I did not become Tendulkar, I did not become Kohli. I think you have taken the right choice to be in BSc or BTech, that you are going to be a scientist. Remember, these names will be there as long as the planet will be here. So Isaac Newton, Marie Curie, Albert Einstein, or Watson Crick, Rosalind Franklin, Abdul Kalam, Sienna Rao, I think these names we remember forever. I can tell you in the year 3000 also, people will start looking at these names, but I don't think they will read about Tendulkar at that time. So how many of us would aspire to be these scientists? I think we have an opportunity that we could become scientists like here. So what is science? As I told, it's a personal passion. And if you look at the history of science, that's why I think we always complain that government has not given me a grant, my university did not give me anything. Remember, the greatest science has always happened using their personal money. When something is not in the lab, they did not hesitate to use their whatever little earnings they have in their family. They took that money, buy a chemical or buy a reagent or buy a microscope and did science. I think these are all those memorable events which happened in the history. They always was pursued with passion and imagination and creativity. You cannot tell lies. Actually, we always have to create what is not there on this planet. That's what I said. If you look at chemistry, we create new molecules. which no other science can create. So chemistry is always a creative subject. And if you look at biology, what you do, you observe the life sciences, what is happening around the life, you understand what is there already existing on this planet, and then try to understand the genetic sequence and which sequence is working. So they're already pre-existing on this planet. But chemists are privileged that they can make compounds which are never made, even if you want to believe in God or if you don't believe in God. Whatever is not created so far by the nature, you can create in the lab. And Robert Gross, if you look at, believed to be the founder of the modern experimental science, he recommended that problem is first resolved into simpler parts. I think this is a big message we need to learn from Grosset. What he said, if you look at a problem, it looks very big for you. Suddenly, if you tell a newly born baby about talk of modern science, it's Greek and Latin for him. He will not follow anything. But you divide that whole destination of him to become a great scientist. Initially, you teach him alphabets. Then you teach about elements, you teach about atoms, then you slowly, so you divide the whole problem into smaller things and then keep solving those puzzles, and then you can solve the bigger problem at one go. And if you really look at scientists, Aristotle is considered to be the first modern scientist. So why I'm telling 384 BC? Because these are documented in proper journals. We are not talking of history of beyond this. Whatever is recorded in the books, I think we are talking about. So Aristotle can be considered as the first scientist of this planet. So if you look at how chemicals started appearing on the earth, because I'm a chemist, I always look at every problem with chemical. Whether you look at biology also is full of chemicals. You have carbon, nitrogen, you have oxygen. That is how all your DNA is made, all amino acids are made. So end of the day, chemistry takes a central part, and all the elements, whatever are recorded in the periodic table, they make this planet. Whether you look at plastic, you look at clothing, what we wear, or the drugs, what we consume, or the vaccines we take, I think everything are elements. So this slide tells you how the first chemical was made on this planet. If you look at the first elements made, hydrogen, helium, lithium, and beryllium. But unfortunately, it looked like lithium will be an endangered element. We are abusing the lithium atom on the periodic table. All our mobile phones, batteries, I think we are using lithium so much, look like lithium will disappear from the periodic table. So Mendeleev has added lithium in the periodic table, and who knows, after 50 years, lithium will be removed from the periodic table. That's why Mendeleev has made empty box on the periodic table to add elements. He never thought that human will abuse the elements, that elements will disappear and empty boxes will come. So we need to be extremely careful to make sure that elements are not abused, and we should make sustainable elements so that whatever we take from the nature, we should give it back to the nature. If lithium is coming from the Earth's crust as lithium carbonate, for example, after you use it, lithium in your battery, it should go back to nature again as lithium carbonate only. You cannot leave radioactive lithium into the earth. Or you take uranium oxide or uranium carbonate, for example, or uranium chloride from nature. You should give back to nature again in the same atomic state and as the same salt or the same counterion. You cannot give radioactive uranium back to the planet. Again, whole world will disappear. Like we had a problem when radioactive explosion happened in Japan. So atmosphere would have about 40% hydrogen. So how we should consume hydrogen as a fuel, not any other element, because hydrogen is still surplus. Again, you can look at Miller-Urey experiment. People should go back and read what is the Miller-Urey experiment, how amino acids were made, or how nucleobases were made. Carbon monoxide, ammonia, water, electric discharge, you get the first nucleobase. A nucleobase can give you DNA, and it can give you life, it can give all that. So that is how whole world and chemicals have been forming on this planet. So if you look at the scientific observations, astronomy could be considered as first of those documented sciences, because what you need was you go in the late evening and look at the sky, and that's how astronomy can begin. So if your eyes are sharp, you can see how planets are coming close to each other. And that is how Tycho Brahe was called the naked eye astronomer. Without using any telescope, he was able to give a lot of astronomical data. That is why he is called a naked eye astronomer. Similarly, Bruno. Similarly was Copernicus. So these are the people who have created the first science and scientific evidences for us into documentation. If you look at some of the contradictions, you can again look at Kepler, Galileo. I think these are some of the important events which we should remember. As I told you, history of science, if you read that book, you will understand how these people have contributed. They went on to develop science using their personal money. They will go to the local king and request some small donation, or they will steal something from their mother or father and then use that little money to see that the science develops. Again, look at Galilei, what he did. He has, whatever was described in your biblical things, he contradicted. Then he was put in jail, but he never conceded that what was told in biblical was correct. End of the day, he found to be, he was the person who told heliocentric universe was controversial. And finally, he went on to say geocentric is the correct way. So telescopes and lenses were the tools for development of this branch of science. Even physics started working around this area and physics began. But if you look at biological sciences, what you required was a microscope, because you wanted to see everything under a microscope to see how the life happens. So most discoveries happened after the microscope was discovered. And if you look at Robert Hooke, who was born in 1635, again, we are talking of some science happening about 400 years ago. He was in 1635 and his parents thought he will not survive because he had some genetic disorder. He had to live only on milk. Anything else he eats, he was not able to digest. And he had a very weak constitution. But end of the day, he went on to make the entire biology. He wrote Micrographica. And then he discovered microorganisms in droplets of water, sperm cells, structure of feathers, nature of butterflies' wings, compound eye of a fly. All that he was able to describe using a microscope, even though he was physically challenged. So I think those who were not six-pack need not worry. I think to do great science, you don't require to be six-pack. You don't require to go to gym. I think if your brain is sharp, I think you can do the best science. So if you look at the Indian heritage, delving deep into our heritage, again, Andrea Vazzella, he was called the great robber of dissector because he used to steal some dead bodies and he made the first human anatomy. And he wrote the book, published 7 volumes on the fabric of human body. Similarly, if you look at Shashruta, on the river Ganges, wherever bodies are thrown, we all believe that if your dead body is put into Ganges, we directly go to heaven. Whether we go to heaven or not, we don't know, but we spoil the Ganges. Again, our Honorable Prime Minister has to do Ganga cleaning, Namami Ganga. So he used to go and take all the dead bodies floating in the water, take into his house. And imagine without the tools, today we have the best tools available, but without the tools available, Shashruta was able to do a surgery in the eye or the ear. I think imagine how sensitive those are. So this is how the entire science and the science has begun. Coming to chemistry, today's talk, what I'm going to share, what is that Atmanirbharta we need to achieve in chemical sciences. What we wanted chemically is you take 2 chemicals, put into some flask and boil them, heat them at some temperature and see what changes happen. I think that's how the whole chemical sciences has begun. Chemistry is nothing but heating some of the chemicals together and cooking them together. So cooks can make the best chemistry. Those are good cooks also can become great chemists. So if you look at James Watt and his steam machine, that is where we know thermometer, we know how to measure the temperatures. And that is where I think the proper scientific literature started getting documented once we know how to measure the temperature and how the elements are discovered, how atoms, gases are discovered. Imagine when you look at Cavendish when he discovered the hydrogen, or Lavoisier when he discovered sulfur gains weight, and how Priestley has discovered the gases. Imagine these gases were discovered when there were no tools. We don't even know atomic number. We don't know atomic weight. There was no microscope. You can't see with naked eye anything. But despite that, a small experiment done shows that how oxygen was there. Like he never called it oxygen actually. It is something which gives you life. And then he went on to prove that he kept some rats in a small belly jar. And he found that when you put whatever air is there in the atmosphere, it lived for a certain time. But then using mercury oxide, he made pure oxygen, not knowing that it is pure oxygen. Again, survived for 3 times. So he said that there is a pure air, which is 3 times more than the normal air. And that is where we know today that oxygen is only 1/3 in our atmosphere, remaining all other gases. So how gases were discovered and then later those experiments proved what that was told correct. If you look at modern chemistry, again, I think we got X-rays, then we started making a Nobel Prize, which was won by Marie Curie. Unfortunately, she used all the radioactive elements using hand, not knowing that radioactivity causes cancer. But then I think that opened up the new era of research. Today, if X-rays are not there, airports are not safe, because all our metal detectors and everything today, we all revolve around these rays. Similarly, when you want to see if a bone is fractured, I think these rays have helped us. While someone sacrificed their life, that's why scientists and army jawans are equal. They sacrifice for the human welfare. So if you look at Max Planck's black body radiation, Neil Bohr's quantum model, so all these are the innovations in chemistry, while they also spread into physics. Today, if these rays are not there, in biology cannot survive. That is why there are no boundaries for science today. Whatever little we do in chemistry, whatever little we do in physics, they get into biology. And whatever biology they do will come back into our sciences. So end of the day, there is nothing like botany, zoology, or physics, chemistry, or other physics and astronomy, but I think all sciences are unified today. But end of the day, why do we do science? I think we would like to be happy. We all do science so that the planet is, Earth planet is happy, and always planet is smiling as all these African boys and girls are smiling. How many of you have smiled like that in your life? Many times you're always worried. Oh, I got admission into IIT Bombay, I would have got IIT Madras. IIT Madras is one rank above Bombay, or vice versa. End of the day, I think we need to find happiness in what we have. Today, when someone gets corona, doctors are also putting on to psychiatrists now. So please be happy, then the disease will go away. Don't get panic, don't get nervous. Oh, I only got corona, others did not get. So let me go and give my corona to others. But I think better you stay isolation rather than giving this to others. Don't share corona to others, okay? You share your sorrowness, share your happiness, but don't share corona, okay? Then the planet will be happy. So to be happy, what you need, health is the most important thing. That is what I think Cadila is doing, providing the affordable health. I think in your opening remarks, you made medicines for the last man on this planet. Unreachable places, our health care should go. Agriculture has gone because agriculture has come from there to us actually. And similarly, how we can give back energy to these remote villages. I think these three, if we conquer health, agriculture, energy, I think the whole planet will be happy. So I would not bore you with that, but how good health comes? Good health comes by prevention. That's what you have vaccine. Or diagnosis, what disease we have. Of course, we cure, and slowly we get into personalized medicines. There's a prediction that by 2030, one of the consulting companies, I think KPMG, has written that so many vaccines will come. Today, I'm told that whatever vaccine your company has, Cadila has, I think it will protect you from tuberculosis, will protect you from corona, it will give immune booster. If our immunity is very good, maybe at least 30-40% diseases we can conquer. So who knows, a vaccine will come for cancer, a vaccine will come for diabetes. If someone has a small defect at the genetic level, you do CRISPR technology and correct the gene correction. Then you don't get diabetes. So I'm sure by 2030, 2040 or 2050, who knows, maximum 3000, we conquer so much science that maybe diseases will not be there. Only when the child is born, he's given 2-3 vaccines, and a CRISPR technology will come and correct the genes, and then you will be eternal. You will live for 150-200 years. When you get bored only, you will go and go jump in Arabia Sea somewhere. So who knows, this kind of world will happen as science progresses. So if you look at how the antibacterial chemotherapy has begun in the history, again, if you look at the adventure Gerhard has done, who got Nobel Prize in 1939, administered a dye-chemical protonsil to his daughter who was suffering from streptococcal infection. It's a prodrug that releases sulfanilamide, and that is how the entire sulfar drugs have come into the planet. Sulfar drugs are poor man's antibiotics. These sulfar drugs are currently available today at 1 rupee antibiotic, or 50 paisa tablet. And that is how we conquered many, many infections. Similarly, how vaccines evolved in the history. Those the people who were milking the cows, they were not getting a particular infection. And they realized that they were getting mild infection from the cow when they're milking the cow, and that worked like a vaccine. And that is how the entire vaccine research has begun. And imagine how mRNA vaccine has come within 8 months of corona. Everyone thought it will take 10 years before a vaccine comes. So the science has progressed so well that within 8 months, a vaccine has come. If you look at 1918 pandemic, that pandemic lasted for more than 2 years and killed several millions of people. But here, within 7 to 8 months, we had vaccine, we had enough drugs, and look like within 12 to 14 months, we will conquer this disease. That is what over the 100 years of science we learned. But these two molecules which I'm showing you, one which Dr. Yadav as my PhD guru has given me for cyclosporin, which is immunosuppressant. When someone undergoes a kidney transplant, it is given, or any transplant happens, you give cyclosporin. But the next generation immunosuppressant is rapamycin. And again, it became sirolimus, temsirolimus, everolimus, and didofolimus. These are all the second generation immunosuppressants. Also, people have found that if this rapamycin is given to mice, the mice was living at least 30% more time on this planet. If, for example, a mice lives for only, say, 120 days, when you give this drug every day, certain dose, it is living for 30% more time. So who knows, clinical trial will happen and we all will start taking rapamycin every day, a few milligrams when the child is born. And instead of 100 years, we are all blessed, Shatamanam Bhavati, 100 years you live. That's how our parents bless us on our birthday or any festival comes. And then you add 20% life to that after you start taking, then what blessing they will give now. So in Sanskrit, 120 years is called, I don't know what it is called. So who knows, we all live for 120 years if this drug is called. That's called the Amrut now, basically. And again, this is molecule is discovered by an Indian scientist from a rock. If you look at how this rapamycin was discovered, Rapu Nui from Eastern Island and Suren Sehgal, by the way, did not destroy the sample. He was working in Canada. The sample was in the refrigerator in the company. The company became bankrupt. What he did was he has stolen the sample from the company when they say remove all chemicals, put in the garbage and take away the refrigerator. But he has taken that with him and joined another company, and that's how this molecule became a blockbuster drug. So never throw any chemicals. I think every chemical, who knows, has certain value at some point of time. But then as we keep conquering the diseases, more and more diseases will keep coming. When I made this slide, we had obesity, cardiovascular diseases, high blood pressure, CNS, cancer, type 2, alcoholism. I call them the diseases of the rich people, when called diseases of the affluent. So these are more pronounced in the Western world and rich people. And poverty, we have respiratory infections, HIV, diarrhea, tuberculosis, malaria. But end of the day, they are transferable from rich to poor, poor to rich. Like Corona initially was the rich man's disease. Corona began in Wuhan, but because rich people were carrying it in the flights, only rich people can travel flights. So they traveled and took to the world and then went into Dharavi, where many poor people live. Again, now rich people are protected themselves by staying home, and poor people go to their house to work in their house. Again, they give back to rich people. I think so. We don't want to differentiate diseases. Diseases can come rich or poor equally. So we need to handle equally. Today, if America says, I will not give vaccine to the world, for example, after they discover, okay, maybe half Americans will take, but half Americans they travel and again they get back the disease. So if we discover a vaccine, I think it's important that the responsibility of the country to give to the entire world so that we eradicate the entire world. So malaria is another disease and a lot of drugs are there for malaria. I will not bore you with what kind of drugs were given by chemists. Primaquine, amlodipine, mefloquine, artemether, and next generation anti-malarial drugs will come. And again, that's an important message for the young students. Two, if you look at the lady who got Nobel Prize in medicine, whenever Nobel Prize announced, I'm sure many of us chemists look for that day. Which chemist will get Nobel Prize? We keep listening to the radio or internet browsing to see who makes Nobel Prize. Unfortunately, chemistry Nobel Prize is always given to medicine. Someone CRISPR technology, someone who makes a biochemical pathway. We always look for whether Sharpless will get Nobel Prize, Corey will get Nobel Prize, or Book World will get Nobel Prize. So we always look for some chemists, and suddenly a medicine fellow will get Nobel Prize, because medicine fellows are getting Nobel Prize in chemistry of late. But here, a chemist getting a Nobel Prize in medicine. We are very happy. So chemists also have an opportunity to get Nobel Prize even in medicine. She discovered the artemether medicine, anti-malarial drug. She gathered 640 prescriptions of Chinese medical data, and then one of them of artemisinin. Her daughter was sent to boarding school. I want you to read this last bullet point. And could not meet her till to accomplish her task. When she went back home, her daughter did not recognize the mother because the mother became so old. She spent 20 years away from her daughter. Till I discover a drug for malaria, I will not go home. So that's the kind of, I think, message this slide will give to all of us. Next generation malarial drug, Kalinol. I think, remember, a lot of drugs come from sponges. there is a chemical called Kalinol from an orange sponge, and this molecule is currently exhibiting antimalarial activity at 8.4 nanomolar activity, which is much more powerful than Artemether, what 2 has discovered. So who knows, if we can discover this molecule and take it to molecule, we'll get Nobel Prize again. So what currently my research group is doing is, as I told, I will just share once in a while 1 or 2 chemistry slides to tell my chemistry friends that I'm not just telling the history and arts, but I also practice a little bit of science. So this is a molecule. You get only like 1 or 2 milligrams from several kilos of the sponge. So we did an epoxy-driven Diels-Alder chemistry. Again, my BSc chemists will know Diels-Alder reaction will give you 4+2 cycloaddition. You get a 6-membered ring, and lot of variations, asymmetric versions, and all that. So using this sharp Diels-Alder chemistry and chiral chemistry and sharpless epoxidation chemistry, we made this molecule. And today we have made several grams of Kalinol. And we are working with a couple of drugs for all forum globally to see whether this molecule hopefully could become a drug. Similarly, we all are telling that we want to live beyond 60 years, 70 years, 80 years, 100 years, 120 years. Remember, as we get age, our central nervous system, brain cells keep dying, and new diseases like Parkinson and Alzheimer's and all will come. These diseases were not known in India in 1980s because the average age was only 60 years, 65 years. But today we are living for 80 years, 90 years, 95. So suddenly India is seeing a lot of people with Alzheimer's and Parkinson. So the drugs like galantamine need to be discovered. More and drugs are required for central nervous system. So that is what in 2050, if you are living for 100 years, what is that we need is drugs which are required to cure Alzheimer's and Parkinson and other brain disorders. So again, we made some contributions in this using benzyne chemistry. We made galantamine, we made few analogs. And of course, we did not make a drug, but we know how to make galantamine in the lab today. Similarly, tuberculosis. We all think that we conquered corona. But please remember, 1/3 of the world population are already infected with tuberculosis, especially Asian countries and African countries. More than 40% population and 30% globally are infected with Mycobacterium tuberculosis. But luckily, this is still living as a nascent bacterium. But who knows, it may change, mutate, it may become havoc. So it's time that all the researchers, not only in biology, but also in chemistry, start looking at how we will have drugs by 2025 or 2030. We all know that Honorable Prime Minister has given a call already, like he has given call for how we eradicate corona, eradicate tuberculosis from India by 2025, TB-free country by 2025. But how is it possible unless companies like Cadila, institutes like IICT and other institutes and all work together as one team and discover new drugs or make existing drugs affordable, and also make sure that how resistance is coming for this drug. Already we have extremely, XDR they call, extremely drug resistant tuberculosis. And no drugs in the market today will cure those diseases. So we need some brand ambassadors to tell the world that if someone gets tuberculosis, don't get panic. There are some drugs available. And if, like corona, if you get corona, you go into isolation. Similarly, if someone gets tuberculosis, I think first few months or few days, they should be careful till they get first round of treatment so that they don't become infectious. Till then, when they're coughing and all that, I think they should wear a mask and make sure that they don't spread tuberculosis to other people. So there are 4 drugs available currently: isoniazid, rifampicin. Again, Dr. Yadav made pioneering contributions in all these molecules. Actually, when he was a scientist at IICT and NCL Pune, he has made pioneering contributions in all these drugs. I was privileged to work with him on rifampicin for some time. So these 4 molecules are currently used, and we made a review. Actually, those who are interested to make some contributions, I think they could go back and see how this can be handled. There's a review in Organic and Biomolecular Chemistry. All the drugs in clinical trial, we compiled them as one review article. But there's one drug called bedaquiline, which can work for extremely drug-resistant tuberculosis. Again, this is not available to India till 22 under patent, but we made this molecule. We are working with few companies, and hopefully 22, when the patent gets expired, we'll be able to launch this molecule. I'll just quickly run through now. I think my history part is over, but just to tell what is that Atmanirbharta in chemicals, I'll change the gears a little bit. And unfortunately, when I go back and ask our students Do you know where do we get the medicines? You go and ask, yeah, you go to Apollo Pharmacy or Cadila Pharmacy and then they'll give you a strip. But I think we should tell the common man the amount of work which goes into one paracetamol while you get over 50 paisa on a molecule on the shelf, or Crocin, whatever brand you have. The amount of effort which goes into it, petroleum industry plays an important role. Nitration industry, ammonia industry, urea industry. So many industries play a role before that paracetamol becomes 50 paisa a pill. And many scientists, many biologists, many animals are sacrificed before these drugs come into market. If you go and ask a student in chemistry lab, where do you get chemicals? Sir, I get chemical from Aldrich or TCI. Or he may say Ranbaxy chemical catalog, or maybe some Loba chemical catalog. But he also should know that chemicals are not coming into catalog just like that. Tremendous effort goes into that. That is where Atmanirbharta is important. So I'll just quickly tell how petroleum industry gives us all those chemicals. We all know that we get crude oil from Middle East and sometimes from Russia. And this crude is refined by our companies like HPCL, BPCL, ONGC and Reliance. And all these companies process this crude oil. And then we get into olefins and aromatics and the low boiling olefins such as low volatile chemical like ethylene, propylene, butadiene. And then aromatics, you have benzene, xylene. So we call it BXT, benzene, xylene, toluene. So all these chemicals become the raw materials for all those value-added drugs and agrochemicals and whatever we talk of. I think we need to, if you want to be Atmanirbhar, we need to connect our chemical sector to crude oil industry and see that all these polymers, elastomers, fibers, chemical detergents, fertilizers, everything will origin from the chemicals what I showed you from the crude oil. So how do we convert the unutilized natural gases and crude oil into Atmanirbhar chemicals? So this example shows you the first one, benzene. All of us, you know that benzene is a hexagon. Those my BSc friends draw this benzene the way they like to draw. I think all bonds should be equal size. Never insult benzene by writing in the notebook with the different angles. So benzene, if you oxidize benzene, you get phenol. We all know oxidation will give you oxygen by radical or whatever mechanism, and then you can get into phenol. And then you can do nitration. All the chemists know that phenol, if you do nitration, it's a para-selective. Phenol is an ortho-para-directing group. So you get paranitrophenol, you can reduce it to aminophenol, you acetylate. That is how initially it was made. But later, the technology is changed now. So directly you take benzene, you make nitro, you go on the right-hand side, nitrobenzene, you get hydroxylamine benzene, and then you can rearrange under acid. Just you put acid, rearranges to 4-aminophenol. This is the cheapest way today. 4-aminophenol is available in the market at 180 rupees to 230 rupees per kilo. No vegetable today is available at so low cost. Even water bottles in some of those star hotels, you pay 500 rupees a liter bottle. Today, 4-aminophenol paracetamol is sold at 180 rupees per kilo. That is how this Atmanirbharta. Can you get benzene from petroleum industry at 60 rupees per kilo? Okay. Now 60 rupees chemical, you convert into 180 rupees value-added paracetamol, and 1 kilo paracetamol will give you 1,000 tablets of 1 gram pills or 2,000 tablets of 500 gram tablets. So this is how we need to build Atmanirbharta in paracetamol. This is just one example I'm showing you. But there are many examples. You want many chemicals which are very substituted. I just started from benzene. But for example, if you look at, as I told you, benzene, toluene, xylene, you take and convert them into value-added chemicals. All those structures I've shown you in this slide. How you convert benzene to benzaldehyde, or propylene to allyl chloride, and then epichlorohydrin, or propylene oxide, or you convert into ortho 2-methylaniline, 2-amino-benzoic acid, phenolene. I mean, if you look at 4-phenolone, all our antibiotics come from benzene. Again, if you take toluene, toluene can become 2-amino benzene, 2-methylbenzene. Then you oxidize, and then you make quinolone, which I showed you one box. And this quinolone will give you all quinolone class of antibiotics. Then you get all those imidazoles, then all those indole drugs. So this is how we need to build Atmanirbharta in all our pharmaceuticals. And we all thought suddenly Trump, the outgoing president of America, hydroxychloroquine is going to cure corona. Everyone started buying in the shop. There was no stock. can you believe in IICT dispensary could not procure hydroxychloroquine? Everyone purchased and kept in their house. That if I will get corona, I will take hydroxychloroquine. So again, it came from two chemicals. I showed you 4,7-dichlorophenolene and hydroxynovaldamin. Again, both chemicals come from petroleum industry. Similarly, remdesivir, I showed you on the right-hand side. And favipiravir, I made a box in the middle. These are the drugs which are saving many, many lives today when corona affected us. If you look at favipiravir, compound number 2, which is shown in this slide, was available at $5,000 per kilo from China. And I need 3 kilos of this chemical to make favipiravir 1 kilo. So I need 15 kilos, that means $15,000 of raw material, compound number 2, another $6,000 of chemical investment, another $4,000 labor, $25,000 per kilo favipiravir was starting price. Then we realized that at this price, Indians cannot afford to make this drug in this country. So what we did, we went on to make favipiravir initially from same chemical from China, but then we directly went, next slide I'll show you. You can see that we are proud that when you buy Cipla favipiravir for a COVID patient, you see developed in collaboration with IICT, Government of India. So we are so proud that we brought down the price of favipiravir from 120 rupees. Today, Cipla is selling at 32 rupees a tablet. And the government hospitals, they are giving at 20 rupees a tablet, while they're making 10 rupees a pill actually. So even you, at 20 rupees, still you are able to make some profit out of this drug. This is how academic institutes and private institutes can work together as one group. So the way we followed, we have a patent currently on this. We modified the existing route, diethyl malonate, then chloroacetic acid, and we made the piperazine and we made favipiravir. So today our price is $650 is the raw material cost for making entire favipiravir. From $16,000 to $600 per kilo favipiravir, we were able to make this. Similarly, remdesivir. There was no intermediate available for this, which were coming from China. So we were able to make Atmanirbhar remdesivir in India by giving technologies for both intermediates. And today, Cipla and 2 other companies, Mylan, Divi's, and other company work, not Divi's, I'm sorry. Mylan, Cipla, and 2 other companies are currently using our process. So this is the entire process by which today one could make a remdesivir. I will not again, as I told you, bore with you chemistry, but how the future of healthcare will go. As I told, who knows, vaccines will come and more protection will happen when we are child, so we don't require to worry too much. As I told, health is at most important. I'll quickly rush through. I know I've done about 50 minutes already. So another 5 minutes, I'll try to wrap up. So while health is at most important for all of us to be happy, agriculture and energy also will contribute for all of our happiness. So how agriculture and human civilization began? Again, the history. Early humans were hunters and gatherers. So they go take a rock and kill an animal and eat all that. So if you look at the Mesopotamia recorded the beginning of agriculture, Mesopotamia period is the time when agriculture began. So some of the people who started living in small colonies, made small huts or houses, they realized that going far places and hunting, because animals were not coming closer to their house. So traveling a distance and hunting was becoming difficult. They realized that whatever little was available near the water, so they started plucking them and eating. That is how people started vegetarian food. And while killing animals was little difficult, then started domesticizing the animals. Goats and sheep were cultivated in the house, grow them and then kill them and eat. So this is how whole colonization of people, colonies, and then small municipalities and then countries and all were formed from individuals. And over a period of time, today we have countries and we fight for borders. But when countries were not there, I think humans were moving from country to country without a passport or a visa. If you look at this era, I don't think everyone wanted a visa. But then because at your area you were not getting crop properly, then they started putting some cow dung. That's how organic farming began. Then urea came into picture, nitrogen and all that. So this cartoon tells you how the evolution of food has begun. From plowing to tractors, today we are talking of aerial farming also. So if you look at IICT again, this is the brainchild of Dr. Yadav, who is on the call today. He said instead of organic, pesticides and all that, all ureas and all that, can we do semiochemicals, organic farming, integrated pest management, pheromones? So all this research began in our institute also. And today we are cultivating almost 1 lakh acres of land is covered by pheromone technologies, thanks to Dr. Jayesh Yadav, who made this activity began way back in 1995 in IICT. It took about 15 years, but today we are able to make it so commercially successful product. Similarly, we looked at revolution. When the food was not there, the green revolution of Swaminathan and Norman Borlaug and Swaminathan gave us the green revolution. Similarly, we had revolutions to grow the fish. We have the genetic modifications of chicken. If you look at how chicken was looking in 1957, luckily I'm a vegetarian. I'm sure Gujarat is a vegetarian state, more or less, most of you. But if you look at 1957, 78, they were giving all the hormones, all those hybridizations to grow. Who knows? One day chicken will become so large, it will be as large as a tiger and elephant, and it will not, we cannot kill it, that will go and kill us, I think, most probably. So it will, reverse migration will happen now. So now for vegetarians, our neighbor lab CCMB gave you meat in the lab synthesis. You can cultivate meat in the lab now. So these are all the adventures happening in agriculture to make Atmanirbharta in agriculture. Energy, again, sun was the first source of energy and light, but today we are talking of LED. But remember, all this fuel, what I'm talking of, benzene, petroleum industry, all will disappear. Who knows, in 100 years, 50 years, coal will go away. We may have to depend on hydrogen. At some point, we may have to take seawater and split into hydrogen. So that is how the energy sector will also move. And we need to look at how, instead of filling our car with petrol or diesel or whatever today we are doing, who knows, you fill with water, and electrolysis of water will happen at low cost, and hydrogen will come. And that's how all our automobile industry will run. And if water gets over, I don't know where do you get energy then. I think water will not disappear because environment will keep getting the water cycle continue. And we need to be using all the wind energy, biomass, solar, everything has to come into picture. Otherwise, by 3000, we are talking of 2050, but 2070, 2080, I think all sorts of fuel will disappear. So those who are going to live in 2070, I think they may have to go back to bullock cart maybe. So those young boys in the intermediate high school or just born, I think those faculty house, young children of 2-year-old, 3-year-old kids, I think they will have all that tamasha in 2050, 2070. So we need to protect the environment, make sustainability, and all that, of course, will come by all contribution. Atmanirbharta, again, is not that we become self-sufficient, we close our borders. I think we will make sure that we make surplus products, give to others, and they make surplus and they give to us. So trade in, trade out has to happen so that the true Atmanirbharta will come. I think something went wrong. Yeah, okay. So carbon footprint, again, global warming, we need to keep a watch. Otherwise, I think global warming will go into kill us. So greenhouse gases have to be conserved very carefully. Carbon dioxide, fossil fuels. I think we need to have also a technology where whatever we breathe out carbon dioxide, whether it can become methanol. Because you do reduction of carbon dioxide with hydrogen, it becomes methanol, and methanol can become fuel. So these are some of the things which are going to happen. And basic human needs provided to everyone free of charge will taken for granted. Sorry, I think this is a statement which I don't want to read. I think we need, nothing should be given free to the planet. I think planet should charge everything. Similarly, gap in rich and poor should not increase. And as the Tesla start bringing cars, I think the book I showed you, 21 lessons for 21st century, I think wonderful narration on Tesla. Tesla will launch 2 cars, hypothetical. I mean, it's not that Tesla will launch, hypothetical, altruist car and an egoist car. That means altruist car is a Gujarati car. That means it will help others. Egoist car is someone who has a lot of ego. I mean, we don't want to name Trump, but it will be like that. So altruist car in emergency, the car will sacrifice but save others. An egoist car program is written, whatever happens, the owner of the car will survive. So maybe Gujaratis will buy altruist car and egoists will buy expensive car. Egoist car will be expensive. Sacrificing cars will be cheaper, most probably. So I mean, these are all hypothetical questions we need to ask. If the car is driving on its own, you are sitting in the back seat. In the case of an accident, whether it will make a big accident and kill you, or it will see that opposing school driving car will kill. I mean, the book narrates wonderful story on how Tesla will evolve in the next 30, 40 years. Imaginative. So we always need to look at it. For example, the car is going on a bridge. Suddenly opposite a school bus is coming. School has 40, that bus has 40 children, And now head down is almost guaranteed because the program was not written properly in the electronics. Now, whether this car will autocorrect and jump into the valley and sacrifice the driver so that the school bus will survive. Will you write that program? So these are all the questions I think 2030, 2040 people will start asking. And I think we need to be preparing for artificial intelligence, and that is going to be a big game changer to all of us. Today we look at cars, aeroplanes, autopilot landing. So all these are going to be the next world. And this is just an old cartoon to tell you that in 2050, we will have robots who will control the world, and robots will become our slaves. Will it happen, or humans will become robo slaves? I think these are the questions we'll keep asking, but hopefully all will be well, and we'll defeat Corona. Stay safe, wear a mask. Don't get complacent that Corona cases are coming down Ahmedabad. We never know when we will get a second wave, third wave. We saw America, England, mutations. So many things are happening around. So my request to all the listeners on the call, especially the young children, young college mates and all that. So please wear a mask, social distance. Don't go to get-togethers and parties. You have another 85 years of life on this planet. So don't worry, losing 1 year is not a big challenge. I should be more worried because I'm close to 60. I will live only for 10 years on this planet. So I can be carefree. Because if I lose 1 year, I'm losing 10% of my leftover life. But if you lose 1 year in 100, you're only losing 1% of your life. So just be careful. And history of science is essential to understand the processes, trends, and future of science for human well-being. That's what I wanted to convey to all of you. Hopefully all is well. Thank you. Jai Hind.
Thank you, Dr. Chandrasekhar, for a truly engrossing, inspiring, and motivating talk. The floor is open for questions. I have a question from myself that I will ask you. That is, what do you think the most groundbreaking discovery from a chemist point of view? So you have told us the historically how things were invented and improved. So from a chemist's point of view, what do you think is the most groundbreaking discovery?
Urea.
Okay.
Synthesis of urea is the groundbreaking synthesis. Most atom economic, green technology, and without urea, we can't survive.
Right.
So hats off to Oler.
Yeah, agree to that. Sir, one more question is that you mentioned 2 books in the beginning. One is 21 lessons from 21st century. Another book we forgot. We want to know that book.
The slide is there.
Okay, okay.
I'll get, don't worry.
Okay.
I'll tell you. Science, a History.
By?
John Gribbin.
John Gribbin. Okay.
Gribbin.
Okay. Okay. All right. So we will proceed ahead, and for concluding remarks on Sir's talk, we will move to Dr. J. Prakash Reddy, our chemistry department colleague. Prakash sir, please.
Okay, Palomi, before he comes,
Yeah, sorry. Yes,
Chandrasekhar,
sorry.
excellent talk. Very nice.
Thank you so much, sir. All your training, sir.
It was far better than a SRM lecture, okay?
Thank you. So you only told me to repeat, so I just repeated. So
No, but it was far, far better. What you have added is far better. So I am very glad that IICT is in good hand now.
Thank you, sir. So I told you, I think all your training.
No, it's all, I have trained so many, but all students are not like you. So there is it. Okay, I think, doctor has come, so I have to go and see. Okay.
Sir, good. Hope madam is well, sir. I'll text you, talk to you later again, sir. Thank you, sir. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Bye.
Prakash sir?
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you, Dr. Palomi, and good afternoon to everyone. So today we have witnessed one more memorable talk from well-known and renowned scientist and able administrator and director of IICT, Dr. S. Chandrasekhar. For the last 1 hour or so, sir has ignited our minds with his motivational speech. I'm sure the science stories that you talked about and the challenges you posed to the participants in the webinar would have struck all the minds. In fact, giving many studies, no, and then through your personal experience and involvement in all the work, all of us understand the need for collaboration and work across the disciplines, especially given the present COVID-19. I'm sure with your inspiration speech, we all, as young researcher, like we have the research scholars at the university and the students listening to this lecture, adopt those values and lessons. Sir, we at Industrial University, all the faculty, including the chemistry, biosciences, engineering, sit together quite often and discuss ideas that can integrate under the mentorship of Dr. Yadav, sir. And you have certainly enlightened all the participants by showing new pathways to do creative science. You also emphatically mentioned and the need for sustainability in science and emphasized the importance of interdisciplinary research and showed the beauty of science in an exciting way. I'm sure all the participants of this lecture are immensely benefited, and your talk would have rekindled their interest, to think their own research in all the possible directions without any borders. So on behalf of all the participants of the webinar, I thank you for giving us your valuable time in spite of your busy schedule and delivering an inspirational and exemplary talk. So we look forward hearing to you again and maybe in our campus directly next time. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, Prakash sir. We will move to Ritu ma'am for the thank you part of this event. Ritu ma'am, please. Dr. Ritu Chaudhary from Biosciences.
Good afternoon, everyone. On the behalf of our university, I would like to convey my sincere thanks to the Chandrasekhar sir. Thank you so much, sir, for sparing your precious time from your very busy schedule. We are very fortunate to have you here, sir. Such a legendary scientist. Thank you so much, sir, for very motivating lecture. I would extend my thanks to our Vice Chancellor Dr. J.S. Yadav and Dean School of Science Dr. Bharti Dave for initiating this idea of Guj Ghost webinar series. Thank you, Nidhi Gaur ma'am, Dr. Nidhi Gaur, coordinator and co-coordinator of this series, Dr. Poulomi Sen Gupta and Dr. Hiral Trivedi for making all the arrangements. Thank you all the panelists, Registrar and Dean School of Engineering, Dr. Amish Vyas, Abhinand sir, Prakasha sir, all the panelists and all the participants, all the students for learning the things and their active participation. Thank you, technical team. Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ritu ma'am. Thank you, Chandrasekhar sir, once again from Industrial University.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. We learned a lot from this talk. It was really very inspiring.
Wonderful meeting all of you. Wonderful meeting all of you on webinar. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Thanks for your presence, sir.
Bye-bye.
Bye, sir.
Shashwat, you can close this.
Yes.